Okay guys, you've been solving quadratic equations in quite a few different ways so far. Now we're going to look at what is probably the easiest, okay? Also the hardest, but we'll start with the easy stuff first. Okay, so when we have quadratic equations that have brackets in them, okay, so for example, if I give you x minus 1, 3x plus 9 equals 0, okay? So you should always check. If you see a situation like this, first thing you always check, is it equal to 0? If it's equal to 0, you don't need to worry about the right side, so great. Then you should always have a look. Do we just have two brackets and nothing else? And are they multiplied together? Okay, so you can see here we have an A times B situation. We have A times B. Okay, now if you have A times B equals 0, it's already all ready for you. You don't have to do anything crazy with it. We just go straight into A equals 0. So in this case, x minus 1 equals 0, or B equals 0. So 3x plus 9 equals 0. That comes down now to x is equal to 1, or 3x equals minus 9, which gives us x equals, and for some people you do have to be careful with this because you'll make mistakes. Remember, x is equal to minus 3. Okay, and the reason I wrote it in with this one is because some people do the division wrong and then they end up making mistakes, especially if the number on the left was bigger. Okay, so that was easy. If you see equals 0 and they're already factorized, then just do it. Okay, make the brackets equal to 0, solve. Easy. Okay, sometimes it will be a little harder. Okay, so you might get something like x brackets x plus 1 equals 5x. Okay, so this looks like it's factorized. On the left it's factorized, but on the right we don't have equals 0. We've got this 5x here. So that means what we need to do is firstly we need to expand our brackets. So we're going to say x squared plus x equals 5x. That's our first step. Okay, then we're going to need to move that 5x to the other side. Okay, so if it's not equal to 0, always do that first. So we're going to have x squared plus 1 minus 5 gives us minus, so minus 4x equals 0. Once we have it equal to 0, we can now factorize it. So we're going to get x minus 4, hopefully you're quick at this by now, is equal to 0. So we can say we've got a times b equals 0 now, so x is equal to 0, or x minus 4 equals 0. Okay, then x is equal to 4. Okay, so we've solved this one now. We might do one more intermediate one before we do a harder one. So something like, I'm just trying to find a question in another book that will help you. Okay, we will do x minus 5 squared equals 2x minus 10. Okay, so for this one, let's have a look. Straight away, again, you can see that the right side is not equal to 0. Okay, so we're going to have to move it to the left. What I would suggest you do first, though, is expand the brackets on the left first. Okay, it doesn't actually matter which order you do. You can move them first, but it might confuse you if you don't expand those brackets first. So let's start by expanding those brackets. So we've got a perfect square here, which means, remember, a plus b, well, this is a minus, so let's make it a minus b squared equals a squared plus minus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, so a is x, so we've got x squared minus 2 times a times b. So a times b, which is 5 times x, gives us 5x, and then double it becomes 10x, okay, plus b squared, so 5 squared is 25, equals 2x minus 10. Okay, easy. Now we want to get rid of all of this over here. We want this to be equal 0. Okay, so we're going to have minus 2x on both sides. Let's do that first. Alright, so we're going to get x squared minus 12x, be careful, plus 25 is equal to minus 10. Then we want that 10 to go away, so we're going to add 10 to bring it to 0 on both sides. So we're going to have x squared minus 12x plus 35 equals 0. Okay, now at this point we can factorize. Alright, so if we factorize this, I'm not going to use the table anymore. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give 35, because our a is 1, so we don't have to worry about a times c. So two numbers that multiply to give 35 and add to give negative 12. Now if they multiply to give a positive, but they add to give a negative, we know to multiply to give a positive, they both have to be the same sign. They both have to be positive, or they both have to be negative. Now to get minus 12 though, that means they must both be negative. Okay, so two negative numbers that multiply to give 35 and add to give 12, well, it's 7 and 5. Okay, so we know we have x minus 7, x minus 5. Use a table if you're not sure. Whoops. Is equal to 0. Alright, this is now easy. We've got a times b equals 0. So x minus 7 equals 0, or x minus 5 equals 0. X equals 7, or x equals 5, and we're done. Now, I'm going to do another one with you, and I accidentally recorded it on the last video, but I'm going to add it to this one, so it might be a little bit strange at the beginning, but just follow through with that as well. Okay, so I'm going to make this one extra hard, because this is the kind of thing you're going to have to be able to do anyway. So let's try this one. This is going to be x minus 2, 2x minus 5 is equal to x plus 2. Okay, now this is hard because a lot of people look and they go, oh, miss, it's already factorized. So I can just say x minus 2 equals 0 and 2x minus 5 equals 0, except what's on the right? This here, this is not 0. So even though it's already factorized, we can't just make these equal to 0. All right, you have to be very careful of this. So what we're going to do instead is, firstly, we need to expand these brackets. Okay, so we're going to start by expanding brackets. I'll write the steps over here. So we're going to expand brackets first. Okay, so here we're going to get, and I'll do it the long way. First bit, x times 2x, so we get 2x squared. All right, next one, x times minus 5, so minus 5x. Then insides, minus 2 times 2x becomes minus 4x. And then minus 2 times minus 5 becomes plus 10, equals x plus 2. Okay. Now we need to simplify this left-hand side. Okay, so simplify. That's what we're going to do now. All right, so 2x squared, and this just means combining the like terms. We have these two like terms here, so we can bring them together. So we get 2x squared minus 9x plus 10 equals x plus 2. You'll see, guys, also I try to line my equal signs up as much as possible. It's just a convention in maths. It's one of those things we do. Please try to do that, okay? It's really important that now you're really starting to focus on keeping your work tidy and in order, okay? Because as math gets harder, if you don't have it nice and neat on your page, it becomes harder and harder for us to grade how to see what you're doing, okay? And it'll be harder for you to see as well. All right, at this point, we want it to be equal to 0, don't we? All right. So let's try this. We want to make this equal to 0, so we need to minus x from both sides. Okay, so we're going to get 2x squared minus 10x plus 10 equals 2. Then we want to minus 2 from both sides. Okay, so we're going to have 2x squared minus 10x plus 8 is equal to 0. Now, this is another one that's got an extra level of being a little bit tricky, because we said to you here that we should always have a 1 in front of the x squared if we can. All right, and you guys should be able to see that, okay, we don't have a 1, we've got a 2. To get a 1 there, we could divide by 2. All right, and actually, in this case, if we divide by 2, we can divide all 3 terms by 2, and that's going to make this much easier for us. So what we're going to do here is we're going to divide the whole left side by 2. We're also going to divide the 0 by 2. All right, this is, as I said, this is a hard question, but if you can handle this, you'll be fine. Okay, so 2x squared divided by 2 gives us x squared. 10x divided by 2 gives us minus 5x. And 8 divided by 2 gives us plus 4. 0 divided by 2, it's just 0. Whoops. Sorry guys, again, being left-handed, sometimes the screen doesn't like me leaning my hand on it. Okay, at this point now, we can just factorize. Okay, because it's equal to 0, we can now factorize. Okay, so we're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to give a times c and add to give b. So a times c is 1 times 4, which is 4, and b is minus 5. Now, because b is minus 5, we know that one of our terms has to be negative. Have we done something wrong here? No, that should be fine. Okay, we know because b is minus 5, we know we have a negative in there somewhere. And because a times c is positive, both of them will have to be negative. Okay, they either both have to be positive or both have to be negative to get a positive a times c. Okay, and in this case, they're both going to have to be negative. All right, so to get 4, we either have minus 4 times minus 1 or minus 2 times minus 2. Okay, minus 4 plus minus 1 is minus 5, minus 2 plus minus 2 is minus 4. And so we were looking for the first one. Okay, all right, so we're going to have x minus 4, x minus 1 equals 0. Therefore, x minus 4 equals 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. Once we do that, we know that x is equal to 4, or x is equal to 1. Now, if you didn't do that dividing by 2 step, I want to go back and have a look at what we could do, how we could do this in another way. So we're going to draw this one down here. So we had 2x squared minus 10x plus 8. Sorry, I've drawn that line from the wrong part. Plus 8 is equal to 0. All right, so let's just quickly look at why I taught you that other way of doing things. Okay, so we make our little table. We want to multiply to give a times c and add to give b. So a times c is 2 times 8, which is 16. Okay, so we have a 2 in a now. And b is minus 10. Okay, so we want 2 numbers that multiply to give 16. And they're going to have to both be negative because we need that minus 10. So we know, okay, we know it's minus 8 times minus 2. That's going to give us minus 10. Okay, now remember originally we split that middle term, so let's try it. So we have 2x squared minus 8x minus 2x plus 8 is equal to 0. We can factorize this, okay? So on the left, if we divide it into 2 parts here, okay, on the left our factors are 2x, okay, and then we just get x minus 4. Okay, and then we have minus 2, okay, because 2x and 8 can be divided by 2, x minus 4 equals 0. All right, once we do this, you can see these match. All right, so we have x minus 4, and then what's left? Well, that's 2x and minus 2, so 2x minus 2 equals 0. And if we solve this now, we have x minus 4 equals 0, or 2x minus 2 equals 0. So x equals 4, or 2x equals 2, and then x is equal to 1. Okay, so you can see we got the exact same answer, but we could do this by factorizing because you guys learned that extra method. And you're not always going to be able to divide something. So we were lucky in this question that we could divide by 2, but you can't always do that. So please put some effort in and make sure you also know this method, because it will help you sometimes. Okay? Just remember, the take-home message from this lesson is, if you're going to solve a quadratic equation, make it equal to 0 first. Okay, make sure one of the sides is equal to 0. And we try to always keep the x squared positive, so try to always move it so that the x squared will be a positive 1, okay, or at least positive.